I mean, we know this wasn't a mass shooting because three people were shot and killed, but the Gun Violence Archive does classify that as four or higher. But the Gun Violence Archive also says this is going to be the most, or it's on track to be the most deadliest year since they started tracking a decade ago. This is a problem that affects Americans all across the country here. What would you like to see? What would you like that revolution to be, both at the state level and the federal level?
So I love this question because one area of the conversation that we tend not to address is community violence intervention programs, which I'm sad to say Governor DeSantis vetoed millions of dollars that the legislature had appropriated to violence intervention programs. And what do I mean by violence intervention? These are programs that are evidence-based, that focus on a hyper-local level to identify the common types of gun violence and the common locations, and who are the individuals who are most impacted or interacting with the gun violence, and to actually hire and recruit peer-to-peer specialists that are in the community that can help detect, for example, if retaliatory gun violence is going to take place, to help prevent it. And because we can't ignore the fact that we have gun violence that is hyper concentrated in our communities of disadvantage, that is overlooked and neglected. And so we have to invest at that local level. And again, in Florida, we're trying. In fact, City of Orlando, we've taken leftover ARPA money from the American Rescue Plan to put it into CVI programs, and we're seeing reductions in homicides from gun violence. In the larger scale, we also have a mental health crisis, especially among our youth. And I think we're really facing a challenge in identifying strong mentors for our young men. When you think about some of the most popular male figures in media right now, and I'm not really talking about celebrities in TV or film, I'm more talking about some of this online content. Those who are most popular on Discord or Instagram or YouTube, they tend to be very hyperbolic characters that carry misogynistic perspectives, that carry homophobic, transphobic perspectives, that also are inclined to talk about firearms. And I think there's a huge gap here in helping to identify and support mentors who don't do that, who young men can relate to. And so I think part of violence prevention is also figuring out where is this radicalization coming from and how do we counter it? And there are some amazing organizations. Mara's Voice is a nonprofit that's based out of the Florida State University, because that is where we had the shooting at a yoga studio. And that individual who murdered individuals who were in this yoga studio, we later identified as an incel and was anti-women, and he had really anti-women perspectives. So again, we see this pattern, right, of radicalization, especially among young men, that we're not being proactive in addressing. And that's not even a gun control debate. That's more just mental health intervention programming, but it's a part of ending gun violence. It's also addressing these categories. And then of course, on the gun access prevention piece for people that should not have firearms, I echo the comments by others around background checks, other types of red flag programs and so forth. I don't think you can ignore access to a firearm adding to this violence, but we also need some serious investments in just violence intervention and violence prevention as a whole.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious if you could deliver a message to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, what would that message be?
I would tell the governor to sit down and listen. Listen to the pain that families are going through. Listen to their policy ideas. Don't pretend like you have all the answers, and also stop maintaining such an extreme perspective on people who are different from you. I was very frustrated by the governor attending the vigil and speaking in general. I think, of course, attending a vigil as governor is your responsibility. You don't always have to speak. In fact, the rally that I attended in Jacksonville, I did not speak. I just listened. It's really important for us as policymakers and elected officials to know when it's not our time and when we just need to sit and listen.
Representative Eskamani, I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much.